Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will continue book the Al-Qushayri's Epistle on Sufism. Before this, if you still not subscribed, please subscribe and press bell icon. So let's continue. The Imam and Master Abu al-Qasim, may God be pleased with him, said, "Here I have mentioned some of the masters of this Sufi community in order to show that all of them have a great respect for the divine law, that they are committed to the paths of spiritual self-discipline, that they follow unswervingly the Prophet's custom, and that they never neglect a single religious rule. They all agree that whoever is remiss in the rules of proper conduct or in striving for perfection and does not build his life on scrupulous piety and fear of God lies before God in whatever he claims. Such a person is deluded. Not only has he perished himself, but also he has caused to perish those who were deluded by his lies." Chapter 2, an explanation of the expressions used by the Sufi community and of their difficulties. It is well known that each group of scholars has its own terms which it employs within itself. These terms are unique to each group, which has agreed on them for its purposes, namely to bring these terms closer to the understanding of those to whom they are addressed, and by articulating them to help the people of this art to better comprehend their meaning. The people of this community use these terms among themselves with the goal of unveiling their meaning to one another, achieving concision and concealing them from those who disagree with their method, so that the meaning of their words would be hidden from outsiders. They have done so to protect their mysteries from being spread among those to whom they do not belong, for their realities cannot be assembled by self-exertion or acquired by any deliberate action. They are nothing but subtle meanings that God deposits directly into the hearts of his folk after he has prepared their innermost selves for the reception of these realities. By this explanation, we intend to facilitate the understanding of the meaning of these terms by those who want to follow their Sufi path and their custom. The mystical movement, Waqt. According to those who have fully realized the true meanings of things, the moment is an expected event whose occurrence depends on a real event. In other words, the real event is a moment for the expected event. When you say, "I shall come at the beginning of the month," your act of coming is expected, whereas the beginning of the month is real. Thus, the beginning of the month is the moment of your coming. I heard that the Master Abu Ali al-Daqqaq, may God have mercy on him, said, "The moment is what you are in now. If you are in this world, then your moment is this world. If you are in the hereafter, then your moment is the hereafter. If you are in joy, then your moment is joy. If you are in sorrow, then your moment is sorrow." By this he meant that a moment is a state that dominates a person. Sometimes, by the moment, one means the time in which one finds oneself. Others say that the moment is something that lies between two times, that is the past and the future. The Sufis say the Sufi is the son of his moment. They mean that he engages in the worship that is most appropriate for his current situation and performs what is required for him at his moment in time. It is said that the poor man does not care about his past or future. All that matters for him is the moment in which he is now. Therefore, they say, anyone who preoccupies himself with the past moment wastes another moment. Sometimes, by the moment, the Sufis means the fulfillment of God's will with regard to them when they cannot choose any action for themselves of their free will. They say someone is under the command of the moment, meaning that he has surrendered to the workings of the unseen, exercising no free choice of his own. This applies only to those things that are not imposed on believers by God or which He requires of them in accordance with the divine law. For when you neglect a divine command or abandon what is prescribed for you by God, or pay no attention to your shortcomings in complying with God's will, then you have simply departed from your religion. They say the moment is a sword, meaning that in the same way as the sword cuts through things, the moment is the unavoidable fulfillment of what God has determined and brought to pass. It is also said that the sword is gentle to the touch, yet its edge cuts. He who treats it gently survives, whereas he who resists it will be destroyed. The same is true of the moment. Whosoever surrenders to its command survives, and whosoever resists it is thrown down and falls on his face. They recite the following verse about this. As if it were a sword, when you treat it gently, it is gentle to your touch, while its edges are harsh when you treat it harshly. If someone is assisted by the moment, then this moment becomes his moment. But if one is at odds with the moment, then this moment becomes his affliction. I heard the master Abu Ali al-Daqqaq say, the moment is like a file, it grinds you down, yet it does not erase you completely. He meant the following: if it obliterates and annihilates you, you would be saved at the very moment you have become annihilated from yourself. However, it takes just a part of you without erasing you completely. To this effect, he recited the following verse: each passing day takes some part of me. It bestows regrets upon my heart, then goes away. He also recited, as with the inhabitants of hell, when their skin has been burned completely, new skins are given to them to renew their torments. And to a similar effect, dead he is not, who in his death has found repose, but dead is he who is dead among the living. Clever is he who has come under the command of his movement. If his movement is sobriety, he follows closely the divine law, but if his movement is annihilation in God, he comes under the command of the true reality. The mystical station, Maqam. The station is the good manners which the servant of God realizes after he has entered it. He can arrive at it by means of his own actions, by fulfilling its requirements through concerted effort and self-imposed strictures in worshipping God. A person's station is where he stands in terms of all of this as well as in terms of acts of self-discipline he is practicing to obtain it. A precondition of the station is that you cannot advance from one station to the next unless you have fulfilled the requirements of the former. For instance, if you have not mastered the station of contentment, kana, you cannot achieve the station of true trust in God, tawakkul. If you have not mastered trust in God, then you cannot earn the station of true submission to the divine will. Likewise, he who has not mastered the station of repentance, tawbah, cannot obtain the station of turning to God in repentance, inaba. One who has not mastered the station of scrupulous discernment between the licit and the illicit, vara, is not ready for the station of renunciation of this word. As for the word mukam, it means the act of being placed, in the same way as the word mudkhal, entry, may mean the act of being entered, or the word mukhraj, exit, may mean the act of being driven out. For one cannot enter a station unless one witness God Most High, placing him into that station, then can one build one's affair on a sound foundation. I heard the masters Abu Ali al-Dakak, may God have mercy on him, say, when al-Wasti arrived in Nishapur, he asked the disciples of Abu Usman al-Hiri, "What did your master usually command you to do?" They answered, "He used to command us to practice acts of obedience toward God while keeping in sight our shortcomings in performing them." Al-Wasti responded, "Then he taught you nothing but pure Zoroastrianism, al-Majusis al-Mahba. He should have commanded you to forget about them and contemplate the one who is their true originator and performer." In saying so, Al-Wasti only wanted to warn them against self-conceit, not to push them toward the path of negligence or to give them license to transgress any of the good manners. The mystical state, Hal. According to the Sufis, the mystical state is something that descends upon the hearts of the mystics regardless of their intentions, their attempts to attract it, or their desire to earn it. This can be the state of joy, grief, expansion, contraction, passionate longing, vexation, awe, or need. States are divine gifts, whereas stations are earnings. States come without asking, whereas stations are acquired by the sweat of one's brow. The possessor of a station is firmly established in it, whereas the possessor of a state can be taken up out of his state at any moment. Someone asked Zunnun al-Misri about the divine gnostic. He answered, "He was here a moment ago but left." One Sufi master said, "States are like flashes of lightning. If they persist, they are but self-deception." The Sufis say, states are like their name, that is, they alight upon the heart only to leave it instantaneously. They recite the following poetic lines. If it, the state, were not changing constantly, it would not be named hal. Everything that changes passes. Look at the shadow. As soon as it has reached its full size and become long, it begins to wane. Some Sufis have pointed out that the states can last and endure. They say that the states that do not last and continue are but flashes of light, lawa'i, and unexpected appearances, bawadi. Those who experience them have not yet arrived at true states. Only when this experience lasts can it be called state. Abu Usman al-Hiri said, "For 40 years, God has not placed me in a state that I disliked." He was referring to the permanence of his contentment, and contentment is counted among the states. On this issue, one must say the following. Those who say that the states perdure are correct. A certain experience may become a man's personal portion in which he will grow. The person who has an enduring state also has other states, named the night visitors. They do not persist in the same way as the states that have become part of his persona. When the night visitors perdure with him, as were the previous states, he can advance to new states that are more lofty and subtle than the ones before them. Thus, he never ceases to advance further and further. I heard that the master Abu Ali al-Daqqaq, may God have mercy on him, commented on the words of the Prophet, may God bless and greet him. My heart was covered with a veil until I began to ask God's pardon 70 times a day. He, Abu Ali, said, the Prophet, may God bless and greet him, was constantly advancing in his states. Whenever he had advanced from a lower state to a loftier one, he would take notice of the one he had just left behind and consider that state to be a veil in relation to the one in which he now found himself. His states were thus becoming ever more intense. The favors that God, may he be blessed, has predetermined for his creatures are infinite. Since the true reality of God Most High is supreme majesty, and therefore one can never truly attain him, then the servant of God has to be constantly advancing in his states. Whenever he has attained an experience, God, may he be pleased, may he be blessed, has already predetermined that there is a higher one and that he is bound to attain it. It is in his sense that one should understand their Sufi saying, the good deeds of the righteous are the weal deeds of the ones who are brought nigh to God. When someone asked Al-Junayd about this phrase, he recited the following: flashes of light that shine when they appear, reveal the secret and announce the unification with the divine. Contraction, qabd, and expansion, bast. These two states come after the servant has advanced above the state of fear and hope. For the divine Gnostic, contraction is the same as the state of fear is for the beginner. Likewise, for the Gnostic, expansion is the same as the state of hope is for the beginner. The difference between contraction and fear on the one hand and between expansion and hope on the other is this: fear is when someone fears something in the future, for instance, the loss of something pleasant or the occurrence of something dangerous. Likewise, hope is when one expects something pleasant to happen in the future or anticipates that something unpleasant will go away or that something undesired will come to an end. As for contraction and expansion, they spring from something that is already there. When someone fears or hopes, his heart is in both these states is attached to the future. The movement of the person is the state of contraction or expansion is determined by the experience that dominates him in his immediate present. The characteristics of the Sufis in contraction and expansion differ to the extent they differ in their states. One experience may cause a contraction that leaves room in its possessor for other things since he has not perfected it. At the same time, in another person, it may leave no room for anything other than this experience because it consumes him entirely. One Sufi said about this experience, "I am crammed full, that is, there is no room at all in me for anything else." The same is true of a person in the state of expansion. He may experience an expansion that encompasses at least some creatures and does not estrange him from most things. At the same time, one may become expanded so much as not to be affected by anything under any condition. I hear that Sheikh Abu Ali al-Daqqaq, may God have mercy on him, said, "One Sufi entered the house of Abu Bakr al-Khattabi. The latter had a son who engaged in unseemly pastimes that were common among the youth of his age. It so happened that the visitor chanced upon that son while he and his friends were preoccupied with their follies. The visitor felt a great pity for al-Khattabi and said, 'O poor master, what a terrible affliction this son must be for him.' When the visitor entered al-Khattabi's room, he saw him behave as if he was not aware of his son's unseemly entertainment. He was surprised by this and said, 'May I be the ransom of him who cannot be moved even by the steadfast mountains?' Al-Khattabi replied, 'We have been liberated from the bondage of the things of this world since pre-eternity.' Contraction is caused by an experience that descends upon one's heart. It may imply censor or indicate that one is liable for chastisement. As a result, contraction enters the heart and it contracts. When, however, an experience is caused by closeness or by God's turning to the servant with gentleness and hospitality, then what enters the heart is expansion. In general, one's contraction corresponds to one's expansion and one's expansion to one's contraction. There may be a contraction whose cause and motive elude the person who experiences it. He feels contraction in his heart, yet he does not know its cause. Such a person should surrender to his state, until its time has come. For if he contrives to expel it or tries to anticipate its attack beforehand on his own accord, his contraction will only become worse. This may be seen by God as improper behavior on his part. If, on the other hand, he surrenders himself completely to the rule of time, contraction will soon go away, for God, may he be blessed, said, "It is God who grasps and outspreads." Expansion may come suddenly. It strikes a man unexpectedly as he is unaware of its motive. It shakes and startles him. This man should try to remain quiet and to observe the rules of proper behavior, since in such a moment he is exposed to a grave danger. May this man then beware of God's hidden rules. One of the Sufis said about this, "The door of expansion was open to me, but I slipped and was wheeled from my mystical station." Some Sufis said about this, "Stand on the outstretched carpets of closeness to God, but beware of familiarity." The people of true realization considers the states of contraction and expansion to be among the things that one should avoid, because in relation to the states above them, such as the servant's annihilation and dissolution in the true reality, that are but poverty and need. I heard Sheikh Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami say, I heard al-Hussein bin Yahya say, I heard Jafar bin Muhammad say, I heard al-Junaid say, my fear of God contracts me, my hope of His mercy expands me. The true reality makes me one with Him. The divine truth separates me from Him. When He grasps me with fear, He detaches me from myself. He outstretches me with hope. He returns me to myself. When He makes me one by the true reality, He places me in His presence. When He separates me from the divine truth, He makes me witness other things and wheels me from Himself. And in all this, God Most High is my sole mover, not my restrainer. He is the one who abandons me, not the one who shows intimacy to me. In His presence, I taste the food of my existence. Oh, would that He annihilated me from myself, then endowed me with a new existence. Oh, would that He took me from myself, then breathed a new life into me. For this video, we will finish here. I will continue in next video, inshallah. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we will meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Allah Hafiz.